You all may remember, because I did live streams about this last winter, that remember that they had displays in the Iowa State Capitol last winter. And one of those displays came from the Satanic Temple. And it was like one of those big displays. Baphomet had the 7 tenets of Satanism that say, like, be nice to other people. And they had that display. Why did they have that display? Because there was a nativity scene that was also in the state capitol, and the Satanists really only respond like that in kind. They don't just start off saying, we want to put up a satanic monument. They say, oh, you're allowing a Christian one in here? Well, we want one too. So they did that. Governor Kim Reynolds, the Republican governor of Iowa, said that display was absolutely objectionable. And then, like a day or two before that display was set to come down, a Christian zealot named Michael Cassidy, he vandalized the entire thing, uh, destroyed it. He has since been charged with the hate crime. But it's the Satanists who have basically been punished over this whole debacle. One Republican lawmaker even filed a bill earlier this year. Look at number 1, new section, satanic displays or the practice of Satanism on state property. The state, yada, 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 anyone who refers to Satan as a deity worships. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back. Number 1, the state or any political subdivision of the state shall not recognize organizations or individuals who refer to Satan as a deity, worship Satan, or who reference Satan or Satanism. This Republican wrote a bill that says the state will not do anything with Satanism. Basically, in theory, a law that would just say the state can't work with the Satanic Temple. Now, this bill, which would violate the First Amendment, didn't get anywhere. But this is the sort of thing Republicans have been doing in the wake of Satanists using an open forum at the state capitol building, right? They're already trying to prevent that from happening again this December. So that brings me to this proclamation that Kim Reynolds signed earlier this year. Check this out. It's incredible. I know it's small font. There's a lot of whereases here, but there's a lot of Jesus and God, and the Bible is amazing, yada, yada, yada. Who cares? Look at this one. Whereas the Bible is recognized as the one true revelation from God, showing the way of salvation, truth, and life, enriching the daily lives of millions of men and women. In the 1960s, the Bible was removed from our nation's schools. Like, I promise you, it wasn't. That's not what the Supreme Court said. That's not what's happened ever since. But, lying is okay if you're doing it for Jesus. But why are we doing this proclamation? Well, look at the bottom here. We get it. They love the Bible. Now, therefore, I, Kim Reynolds, governor of the state of Iowa, do hereby proclaim a week at the end of June and a week that is happening right now, September 4th through the 10th, 2024, as Iowa 99 County Bible Reading Marathon. They're doing every county in Iowa. She wants them to read the Bible. And she encourages all Iowans to join in this historical event to take place in front of all 99 courthouses, and furthermore, encourage individuals and families in Iowa to read through the Bible on a daily basis each year until the Lord comes. Like, Jesus Christ. Besides the fact that straight up reading the Bible straight through in a marathon fashion is boring as hell, not educational in any way. And also, why is the governor saying, yeah, this is all a great idea and you should all do it? That part is messed up. But I should say, this is a proclamation. It's not a law. You can proclaim anything. Groups might say, hey, governor, can you proclaim this to be Nurses Day? And like, governors just do that sort of thing. So on some level, this is kind of meaningless. Like, Kim Reynolds can sign whatever she wants to sign. This one in particular is kind of weird because of what it's doing. But again, let's go back to what the Satanists do. They never start the fight, but they join the fight. So when they heard Kim Reynolds is sponsoring, essentially putting her stamp of approval on it, this week-long Bible reading that is happening, they said, well, then we want to do a marathon reading of sorts. And so they announced that they were going to do something just like this. This is what they posted on Facebook not that long ago. And the font is kind of ugly. I won't lie. Graphic design is not their thing. Not here. But you could see what the headline says. The Satanic Temple, Iowa's Paradise Lost Reading Marathon. And you can see at the very top, this September at the Iowa State Capitol Building Complex. And you could see some of this stuff here. Join us in the rotunda of the Iowa State Capitol building starting September 16th as we read John Milton's Paradise Lost from 1667 from start to finish. We would like to thank the Iowa 99 County Bible Reading Marathon, as well as our governor, Kim Reynolds, who have signed annual proclamations encouraging Iowans to read the Bible. And I think the last paragraph is important here. We are hopeful that this event will encourage Iowans to engage in respectful dialogue about religious liberty, plurality, and the importance of diverse perspectives. So again, you see that, and it's like, yeah, good for you. If they're going to hold Bible readings in front of every courthouse in every county in Iowa, then why not have like a week-long Paradise Lost marathon where you're reading a work of classical literature, right? It's fine. It's harmless. It's a way to push back, like, right? Not a big deal. So the Satanists, they filled out the proper paperwork for all this to make sure they have the permit to get in the Capitol and all that. They did that in early July. And then on July 26th, the same day that permit was like approved and placed on the calendar for the Capitol building's like calendar that's accessible on their website, the Iowa Department of Administrative Services announced it is changing its rules. Yep, they're totally changing their rules for who can use the Capitol space. And like, this is their website, the Iowa Capitol Complex Event Coordination. And you could see if you want to apply for space, it says, okay, review the calendar for availability. That makes sense. Second bullet point here, the event coordinator will create a memorandum of understanding. Well, that's the contract. And you can open up the contract and check out what the deal is. So I opened up the contract. So here is that contract, right? Memorandum of understanding between event requester and the state office. And I want you to look at one thing here. This, I thought it said it on here somewhere. Am I missing it? Maybe I am. Oh, no. Look at the bottom of this page right here. You could see this. It says revised July 26th, 2024, the same day they approved the Satanist request. Well, look back here. We're going to start with number 2 because this is what's interesting. This memorandum of use, whatever they call it, what do they say here? Look at the third line. An event may not exceed 1 day. That wasn't in the original contract. That is something that is only there now. So they changed the rules to say, oh, you want to hold a marathon reading event in the state capitol? Well, guess what? The rules now say an event can't exceed 1 day. And look at the last line, because we'll come back to this in a second. An event requester, including any affiliate, conduit, designee, partner, or subunit, may not hold more than one event per calendar year. Think about that for a second. So if the Satanists say we want to hold not a Bible reading marathon, but a Paradise Lost reading marathon, they wanted to do it for like 4 days, 5 days. Well, now they can only do it for 1. And even if the Satanists say, all right, we'll call your bluff. We're going to read Paradise Lost for 1 day. Well, that last line says, okay, fine. But then you don't get to put up a display in December in the Capitol because you've already used up your 1 time per year usage of our space. So that thing alone, let me show you one other thing. That's the new contract. Here's the old contract I want to show you. This was July 25th, apparently. And you could see number 2, duration. There is nothing about that stuff on here at all. It just says, yeah, duration. That's called time. It's from when your event starts to when it ends. They're done with this piece of paper. Now they want to block the Satanists, so they went back to this thing with all these excess rules that say only 1 day, and also you only get 1 chance a year to do this. So that's interesting. Doesn't say they're going after Satanists, but like you can read between the lines, right? Um, and then there was one other. Oh, by the way, I was told by one source I spoke to that a group called the Iowa Atheists and Freethinkers have already filled out the paperwork to put up a holiday display in the Capitol this December. But that application was apparently rejected. Why? Because the same Iowa group held a lobbying day in the Capitol earlier this year for their members. And that's a normal thing where you say, why don't our members come on down to the Iowa Capitol? We're going to see to it that you can meet with your elected officials and talk to them about the issues that matter to you. A lot of groups do this. It's not unusual. But the Iowa Atheists and Freethinkers did that earlier in the year. So now Iowa officials are saying, "Oh, you did a lobbying day? Interesting. You don't get to put up a display in December because new rules, you only get one thing a year." Okay. I want to show you one other thing in this contract. It's at the very end of the whole thing. And I don't think this got a lot of attention, which is why I want to call your attention to it. Let me see if I could pull this up here. There's one more section at the end which I feel this was not in the previous contract, but it's in here now. And it's long, but check this out. It's 5.15 additional limitation. And it says because the Capitol complex is often a destination for children learning about their state government, visual displays, sounds, and other actions that are harmful to minors, including but not limited to obscene materials and gratuitous violence or gore, are not permitted at the Capitol complex. And then later on, what does it say? What do they mean by obscene material? It's any material depicting or describing the genitals, sex acts, masturbation, excretory functions, or sadomasochistic abuse, which the average person, taking the material as a whole and applying contemporary community standards with respect to what is suitable material for minors, would find appeals to the prurient interest and is patently offensive. Which, by the way, that right there says you can't have a Bible reading because you know what's in the Bible? Sex acts, genitals, masturbation, a lot of very obscene content in the Bible. They also say at the end here that if we think it's offensive because taken as a whole the material lacks serious literary, scientific, political, or artistic value, you also don't get to have an event in the Capitol. But who gets to decide what's offensive? Is reading Paradise Lost offensive? Because it's a work of classic literature. But if you're saying Satanists are doing this and maybe they're going to do a little show because they like getting attention, they're doing a whole show around it. Someone in the Iowa administration is going to say, you know what, that's offensive and we don't want you to be able to do that. Or they're going to say it's obscene and we don't want you to do that. Like, who gets to decide when something crosses the line? I have no idea, but that's a new rule as well. And I did reach out, by the way, to Iowa administration officials to say who does get to decide what's obscene, what's offensive. They did not get back to me. So, bottom line here is that when the Satanists were just planning to read Paradise Lost, this rule change effectively stops them from doing anything in the Capitol that could be seen as offensive to basically anybody because of how vaguely those statutes are defined. So the Satanists then said in a press release later on that we're still doing this. They said we're going to do it on a different place, at a different time, but we're still doing our marathon. But here's the other side to the story. Now you see what Iowa's trying to do to stop Satanists from taking part here. Like, they changed the rules to prevent Satanists from doing their thing. Now, I'm going to come back to that story in a second, but I want to show you this. Check out this headline from a year ago, this year. Look at the date right here, September 17th, 2023. Event in Des Moines helps people experiencing homelessness. And just look at the beginning of this story. A community event this weekend, helped more than 1,200 local people in need. Organizers with the Des Moines Homeless Veterans Stand Down Hope providing the little things such as free clothing, haircuts, and meals can make a difference for people in need. Basically, some nonprofit group in Iowa said, we want to help veterans. We want to help people who have no home, no permanent home, and we want to give them things they may not be able to afford, haircuts, food, things like that. We can connect them, make it a job fair, especially for veterans who are looking for work. Let's connect them with local employers. And it was so successful that 1,200 people came through. Amazing. That is incredible. Like, what a wonderful organization to be doing all that. Well, guess what? This year, the same group said, instead of doing it wherever the hell we did it, why don't we do it in the Iowa State Capitol? Big space, central location. We can get a lot of people there. And it's like, it's in the Capitol. It's meaningful to have people come here looking for help, especially if you're a veteran. So they made plans to reserve space in the Iowa Capitol for several days to host one of these events this year. And you know where I'm going with this story now, because after the rule change to stop the Satanists from having their event, it also turns out that the new rules prevent the Veterans Nonprofit Group from doing their event too. And this is also, let me show you this. It's from the local news as well. This is from the event organizer. Event organizer Nick Lemo said set up alone exceeds the allowed time. It takes them more than a day to put up the tables, get everyone there. And even if the event could be ready, one day is not enough time for visitors to connect with organizations attending without missing other opportunities at the event. Like, basically, the Iowa administration kicked out the homeless veterans group so they can't help people, all to stick it to Satanists. Look at the headline here. We're just scrambling. Resource fair to assist homeless and the veterans threatened by state policy change. Like, how awful is it that those guys are scrambling to find a new venue? The bottom line here is that Iowa Republicans were so desperate to stop Satanists from reading a book in the state capitol that they ended up hurting homeless veterans looking for a job. That's what the Iowa Republican Party is doing. They do not care who they hurt. They do not care who is caught in the crossfire, as long as they can tell their bosses, I guess, that they won some culture war battle. I guess that's what this is about. And I haven't heard any sympathy. It's not like Iowa's come back and said, well, we'll make an exception for the veterans group, which would be illegal, by the way, if you're saying they can come in, but the Satanists can't. But no one from the state so far has said anything about it. You know who has expressed sympathy for the homeless veterans? Only one group, as far as I could tell, involved in this whole thing, and it's the Satanists. This is what they said. This is from a press release from the Satanic Temple. The Satanic Temple of Iowa would like to express our support to Iowa's unhoused population who have been unfairly targeted by this policy change, which we believe occurred due to the Iowa state government's unwillingness to respect diverse perspectives and religious freedom. So the Satanists are still the voices of reason here. And the state's not doing anything. I did ask Lucian Greaves, who is the co-founder of the Satanic Temple, what else he had to say about all this. This is what he told me. I'll read this to you. To now see homeless veterans potentially denied resources due to the simple pettiness of officials whose sole purpose in doing so is to limit religious expression that does not match their own should be an absolute outrage to any decent person, regardless of their religious beliefs. He's right. Again, I don't know what Iowa plans to do about this, but do you really think this hurts the Satanists? They've already rescheduled their reading. It's happening at a courthouse in a different part of the state, but they're going to do it. So they didn't stop them from reading. They just stopped them temporarily from coming into the Capitol building. And by the way, they can still put up now a satanic display this December because they haven't used their one-day slot yet. So they will get 1 day to, I guess, scare the bejesus out of everyone with the Baphomet statue. So that'll happen this December. But just, cut off your nose, spite your face sort of thing where, all right, homeless veterans are screwed over. We don't care. We're Iowa Republicans. Just pathetic. but that is what has happened this week. I'm going to pause there for some questions before I get to the next story. Thanks for the donation, Elizabeth. For those who want to know about Paradise Lost but have not read it, Overly Sarcastic Productions on YouTube has a great vid. I don't even know what you're referring to, but now I'm very curious. You should all go check out Overly Sarcastic Productions after this live stream and not a second before watching you. Thank you for that. At this point, Iowa should just not allow any public displays of any kind because they will never figure out how to comply with the Constitution. That is an option for them. They could totally say, we're just going to close up shop in December. Everyone go home. No displays whatsoever. That would keep it fair. Or they could allow everyone to come in, which is their current plan. But then if they do that, they can't get mad when a Satanist group participates or an atheist group participates. And they should have security there to make sure, non-Christian groups' displays don't get vandalized. Again, the options here are not complicated. They got to pick one. Just make a whole lot of affiliated but distinctly separate groups and then flood them with events. They should. How fun would that be? That is a good idea. I like that. I've just had it with the right wing religious wing of this country thinking they are the be all that ends all in this country. Yeah, vote accordingly, especially if you are in a swing state. My God, do not let these people get more power because this is what they do when they get any power. They use it to shove out everybody else no matter what.